Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us to watch today's video on work-life balance, making time in the bedroom.
And that is real life. Very interesting. I hope Dawn can come back and find me here. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We're dealing with issues so far, what I can see here. And Dawn is coming in and out. So hopefully she will be back in a few minutes. So please, you're there. Hope you're with me live too. Okay, perfect.
Okay, let's try again. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us and for being patient. Today's topic is work-life balance, making time in the bedroom. I'm Dawn Wiggins, licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm joined today with Dagmar Cattell, SEO extraordinaire. And Dagmar, I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for having me, Dawn. Hi, everybody. I'm Dagmar Cattell. I'm an SEO consultant, coach, and strategist, and I help entrepreneurs to really turn their expertise into global business. I'm very excited to be here with Dawn because it's always something what entrepreneurs can learn, and I for sure have phases where I'm totally stressed out and no energy, so I'm curious to hear more about how I can turn this around.
You know, it's interesting, as I was preparing for today's show and writing this blog post, I found this topic to be especially helpful for entrepreneurs, not just, I mean, definitely for anyone, but for entrepreneurs especially, because there's really no set end time to our work hours. When you own your own business, it can be even harder to set limits. So I think that this topic is really, really, really applicable. So I was excited to dig into it. So thank you so much, Dagmar, thank you so much for joining me and for being my co-host.
Anytime.
And supporting me. And let's get into it. So work-life balance, making time in the bedroom. When you're stressed out, overwhelmed, wound up, have racing thoughts, does that really sound like something that's sexy to you? Probably not. And therefore, we can kind of understand that when we're totally overwhelmed with work and work-related issues, that it's going to be hard to feel in the mood yourself, let alone to prioritize intimacy in your relationship, or to even come across as attractive to your partner. So this is a topic that I have found with a lot of my clients create relationship problems, and a lot of these concepts are going to relate to relationships in general, but we're talking specifically about intimate relationships with your partner today. There is a sense that no relationship can really withstand being deprioritized for an extended period of time. So that's when I say all of our relationships are affected by this concept. If our work and life balance isn't there, then it's not just our intimate partners that are going to suffer. It's also going to be our loved ones, friends, family, etc.
And
Pardon?
We too.
Oh yes, absolutely. Ourselves first. You're absolutely right, Dagmar. So there's a couple of things that are important to highlight as we jump into this topic, and that's when a relationship is new, meaning an intimate relationship. The first couple of years, there's some chemical things that are happening in the brain that start to decline after the first couple of years. And those chemicals, primarily dopamine, that get released for being in a new, interesting, novel relationship, when they decline after the first 2 years, we have to start making conscious choices to keep that dopamine release happening. Meaning we have to create conscious, prioritized ways to stay connected to our partner, both emotionally and physically. We've all heard the jokes about, you know, once you're married, the sex dies. And so it's not just about marriage, it's actually about the length of the relationship and the amount of effort that gets put into it. So know that it's not just, there's a chemical thing that's happening in the brain that's involved that we're combating here. And that the important thing is to know that we have to really be able to prioritize balance in our personal lives in order to be able to prioritize our relationship as well. When we deprioritize ourselves or our partners, then resentments build up. We start to become numb, even in our own personal, especially in our own personal lives. And so then we become detached from recognizing the consequences, and we start sweeping things under the rug typically. And I can't tell you how many of my clients really bring this issue to the table where they say they feel like they're less important to their partner than their partner's job. And so there has to be some specific boundaries set in order to improve the relationship. What's interesting is that sometimes when people work too much and they're out of balance, it can be because you're already feeling lonely or deprioritized, and so you turn to work instead of having to sit and feel lonely. So sometimes we don't know, is it the chicken or the egg, but the solution is the same either way. If you're recognizing that your relationship is suffering, or you're recognizing that you've turned to work as your partner because your partner maybe is disconnected, then it's important to take a look at where your priorities are and to start having this conversation with your partner.
Yeah. I think for women, I can't hear myself.
I hear you.
Okay, I hear myself too. Okay, so I think it's for women entrepreneurs is especially difficult because you want to please, right? You want to please your clients, you want to please your friends, you want to please your customers, you want to please your family, your husband, your kids. So at the end, you automatically get burned out, you get stressed out, and so more it goes the cycle down where you think you don't have enough time to stop and do anything else as just working. And I think that's very tough, and then you feel alone. Then you feel like you're working all the time, your partner doesn't understand what you're doing and perhaps doesn't support you. So it's an endless cycle, really.
You're absolutely right. And I think, you mentioned this, and I'm going to reinforce it, that for entrepreneurs and for couples who are both entrepreneurs, I have some of those clients where they both, let's say, have in-home offices, and setting the limits is especially challenging because the computer is always sitting there inviting you. And it's so tempting to just do one more thing and one more thing and one more thing. And if we don't set the limit, then before you know it, you're married to your computer and your job instead of your partner. So absolutely, this is key for learning how to keep it all in check. So something that I also need to add about relationships is that sexual rejection is one of the most damaging things in relationships. And it's because our egos are very, very closely tied to sexual rejection. And so this is one of the main vulnerabilities that couples face. And so being conscious to how this is playing out in your relationship is really, really important. If you've lost track of it, or you're not connected or dialoguing about the sexual health of your relationship, then there is likely a flag there that there's room for improvement.
Absolutely. Just say it again, sexual rejection. I'm tweeting
one of the greatest vulnerabilities that couples face.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to run through 4 key things that I want you guys to know about making time in the bedroom and achieving work-life balance. The first one is going to sound really obvious, and that is set work limits and stick to them. And that's because of our nature of wanting to produce. And I've mentioned this a little bit earlier, but when we are focused on producing at work, then we can easily lose track of taking care of ourselves and prioritizing our partner. And the key here to setting those limits and sticking to them is trusting that if you do it long term, that it will create a positive outcome in your relationship. This isn't one of those things where you can just do it for a week and expect your relationship to shift and get better. This is a long-term commitment I'm highlighting. So if you are an entrepreneur especially, or if you know that you have long work hours or a boss that's really demanding, it's really important that you pick a boundary. And I would encourage doing it with your partner, but pick a boundary and stick to it. And if you need to communicate it to either your clients or to your employer, because we teach people how to treat us. So for me personally, I've learned that, I tell people that if they need me in a crisis, they certainly can reach out to me. But if it becomes habitual, then I start to redirect them to scheduling extra sessions or those kinds of things. Because if I'm constantly taking after hours phone calls, then I'm teaching people that my time is not valuable to me or my family, and that I have no boundaries. So I have to model what it is that I want. And what it is that I need in my life. I also have to be aware for myself how much time I spend, let's say, on social media after hours. And I don't just mean personally, but professionally, after hours when I'm wanting to work on building my presence or, writing blog posts or planning lab shows or whatever it is, doing paperwork. Anytime I'm not seeing clients, that can cut into my family life if I'm not careful. So it's about really setting limits, sticking to it, and that way we can know that our partners, our families, ourselves are having space to thrive and survive as well.
The other thing is what you just said, being aware of that you have to set limits, and nobody will set the limits for you. And that it's like it takes at least 30 days to get used to it, like everything, right? This habit, 30 days to create a new habit. So it's really a conscious choice to make. Do you want to break the cycle of feeling stressed out and energy less? And do you really want to have the balance, work-life balance, our topic today, work-life balance in your life or not? So it's not only that your partner can do it for you. You need to start it, and then I assume you need to tell your partner about it too, so that he can support you, right?
Yes, that's one of the later steps.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ahead.
Just thought about it.
But yeah, it does take consistency over time. You're absolutely right. And a lot of times we can become fearful of setting those limits. Like it would be easy for an entrepreneur to set those limits with their clients out of fear that their clients would get upset, kind of like you mentioned earlier, Dagmar, wanting to please people, or setting limits with a boss, being afraid that they might fire us or that kind of thing. But really what we're doing is we're modeling work-life balance. We're modeling being a work human, not just, that's become a popular trending topic on Twitter, is that we're humans and we're not just robots. And there's a way to connect with the people in our lives and to do it in a human way.
What you just said? We are not just robots. That's funny because we are not robots at all, but we're not robots at all. Like it. And so more like I see that I work on the internet all the time, right? You automatically know your actions, what you have to do. So you become so in your subconsciousness that the consciousness just goes. Like consciously, sometimes I have days where I consciously don't do anything. Subconsciously, I work, and then I know, get up, eat something, go back to work. I don't do consciously stop and smell the roses or whatever, you know. So it's interesting that you said we're not just robots because we're really going in the direction and we're allowing our subconsciousness taking over, and the consciousness just is not there.
Yes, that is absolutely right on, Dagmar, which brings me to the second guideline for work-life balance and making time in the bedroom, and that's being aware of your own well-being. So am I conscious? Am I stressed out? Am I functioning well? How satisfied or happy am I? A lot of times the answers to those questions are going to be really directly tied to the nature of your intimate relationship with your partner. If you're completely stressed out, if you're feeling unwell, if you're not happy or satisfied, you're probably not feeling very sexy, and you're probably not initiating sex with your partner unless you're using that as a specific way to escape or release, which is lacking connection and intimacy. So that's not balance either. So it's really important to be aware of your own well-being and your own sense of balance, and to know that the more you take care of yourself and prioritize yourself, that will automatically translate to your relationship in the bedroom.
Yeah, but I think
so.
I think there's a difference between intimacy and sexuality. And depending on if you're stressed out or burned out, whatever, sexuality is for sure, I think, easier than intimacy. Where intimacy, you need all your senses really to experience that.
You're right on. And again, that goes back to consciousness. If I'm practicing consciousness, then I'm connected, then I'm in tune, and I'm not just robotically going through the act of sex. I am having an intimate sexual experience. So if you're just putting sex on the checklist,
that's funny,
but your life is out of balance, it's going. I'm not sure if we glitched just now or not, but we'll keep going.
Just repeat what you just said.
Okay, that it goes back to the idea of being robots. If you just robotically put sex on the checklist, like, oh, this is something I need to do to satisfy my partner and to get done this week, sex, however many times a week, then again, it's being that robot instead of being in balance and having an intimate experience. So it really is about taking care of myself so that I can be in a space where I'm peaceful, relaxed, and can enjoy being in the moment instead of just doing something for the sake of doing it, just to please somebody else. Or that causes, this is the beginning. We're really talking about the origin of so many problems in relationships where one partner or the other starts to feel objectified, or like it, because it's the beginning of the loss of intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
So this topic really, really is key to keeping your relationship intact in a healthy, functioning, satisfying way. So the third thing that I want you guys to consider is how you communicate with your partner. And not just how you communicate with your partner, but how you create connection with them. So it's important to consciously carve out time to have open dialogue with your partner. A lot of us, when we're so busy, we get used to, just texting updates throughout the day, or having, quick conversations here and there when we're to and from, but not carving out time to actually have intimate, connected conversations where we're sharing how we feel and how we're experiencing the relationship itself. And we tend to, as a culture, I hear, at least this is what I hear in the sessions with my clients, so I believe that it must be a snapshot of our culture, but we tend to rely on things like TV or movies for date night and ordering in, instead of getting creative and setting the tone for a healthy relationship in the bedroom. So if you were to start to get creative and do things like read a book together, watch the stars, make sure to touch, like hold hands or give each other a massage, not only are you setting the tone for connection, but you're setting the tone for physical intimacy. And you're not just checking out and doing something robotic, like escaping through the TV, something that doesn't require as much energy, but you're prioritizing both your own personal needs, because we all have the need for connection and intimacy, and you're also prioritizing your partner. We don't realize that even though we may be sitting next to our partner on the couch watching on the sofa watching TV, we don't realize that that's really not doing anything positive for our relationship. It's the thing that we all tend to do because we're so tired and we don't have the energy to do anything more strenuous. So if you find that that's a habit for you personally or in your relationship, then it's definitely a flag that something in your life is out of balance, and it's probably related to work and or parenting, or the combination of the two, and that your relationship needs attention.
What's your experience with getting the energy up in general?
Going back to setting the limits with work, and sometimes just pushing yourself to do it, because sometimes it's just falling in the rut and not realizing that, oh, if I just say, take the leap, like let's go, lay in the hammock and watch the stars, that will feel better after doing it. It's kind of like when you know that you want to get that feeling of having gone to the gym or exercised, but you dread going to the gym. That's me, at least. But once you've done it, it feels really good, and you feel good about yourself, and you feel good about what you accomplished. It's the same thing about putting energy or attention into your relationship. If you are willing to put that little extra energy in to break the habit of sitting on the sofa watching TV, you're likely to get a return on your investment. So sometimes it's pushing yourself to just do it anyways, and a lot of it is about being willing to scale it back. But the idea here is really communicate with your spouse. Ask them, and this, whether you're dating, you're married, you're in a committed relationship, whatever it looks like, communicate with them and ask them what is their experience and hear their feedback without getting defensive. They're going to tell you what they think is getting in the way, if something is or isn't getting in the way. And then together you can make a plan and you can decide how best to get the energy up. Yeah. What can we do together to solve the problem?
Yeah. You know what you just said, I think that is the secret. Let me just say something. I think that is the secret. Communication, having the same goal, wanting to be in this relationship. Because I had a relationship before where my partner believed intimacy should come natural to you, right? And it does not need conscious effort putting in afterwards. So that, and if it wouldn't be there, this natural feeling that you want to have intimacy, then the relationship is dead or the relationship is gone. For me, it was always, they didn't want to work on it. I mean, like nothing over time will stay how it is today. And there needs to be common goal. There need to be common goals in place that you want to be together and how you can make it work. Like, I don't know about anything that works without that you make it work.
You're absolutely right. Consciousness requires putting our attention on it. And that's how intimacy develops. So yes, please keep in mind that everything I'm discussing here, if you don't have a willing participant in your relationship, it's pretty hard to execute. However, there are tweaks here that you can use even if you don't have a willing participant. There are things that you can do here that will improve the nature of your relationship as best you can. Sometimes we have to be willing to make the effort. Sometimes we have to be willing to go first, if that makes sense, especially when there's a standoff in a relationship, because it's a good faith sign that you're rebuilding trust or that it's safe to be 2 feet in, to recommit if there's been damage done. So, but then you have to know what your limit is if your partner doesn't join you eventually in the effort to keep the relationship alive. So yeah, common goals, common willingness to work on it, absolutely. And just like I mentioned, there's science about that the dopamine dump, you have to keep it fresh in order to continue to get that brain chemical that we all love so much. So the fourth thing that I want to recommend for making time in the bedroom, and specifically how this relates to work-life balance, is know what works for you in the bedroom and make conscious space for that. So when we get caught up all day long at work, and we use all our creative energy at work, and then we just expect our partners to accept the scraps, is that really a balanced or reasonable way to approach having a relationship?
Or fair.
What'd you say?
Or fair.
Well,
fair. Is it fair?
It's probably not. I try to avoid the concept of fair, but no. So my recommendation is to know what works for you, be willing to be creative, and be willing to create that space outside of work. Don't use all your creative energy at work and leave the scraps for yourself or for home. If you spend your whole day in that robotic kind of way that we were discussing earlier, then you're probably not thinking too many sexy thoughts throughout the day. It kind of depends on everybody's a little different. But the more sexy thoughts you think, the sexier you're going to feel, the more that's going to translate. The more willingness you have to have creative time outside of work, the more that is going to benefit your relationship. So be willing to ask for what you need with your partner instead of hoping that your partner will read your mind. And so this also requires conscious decision making, not to just date your job, but to date your partner.
So at the end, it comes back to consciousness, like everything in life. If you do conscious choices and they fit your long-term goals, then you're happy. If you just react, and it's not really what you want to do, then no matter if you have sex or not, then you could be unhappy afterwards because you did something where you felt you didn't have the time for, no, the energy for, and you tried to please somebody, and now they don't give you the response that you think you're a superman or superwoman.
You got it. Yep. If you're, and what you just mentioned about doing something just because you feel obligated or because you want to please somebody, that creates resentment on both parts. So it is about communication, common goals, treating each other with respect, love, prioritizing yourself first and your partner as well. And when we're prioritizing ourselves, that almost always translates to prioritizing our partner, because it means that we're going to be available. We'll have enough time to be available and to be conscious and to hear what's going on around us, to notice what's going on around us. A lot of times when we're in that robot mode and we're not in balance, we miss a lot of cues in our relationships. So it really does. This is one of those things that's let it begin with me, and you're planting seeds that will sprout in your relationship, and it'll create a more intimate and loving relationship when you're willing to create work-life balance. So my final advice is date your partner, not your job, and it will pay off in the bedroom and other places. So if you have any comments or questions about this topic, I would love to hear from you. There's a blog post about this up on my webpage, dawnwigginstherapy.com. And I'm grateful to all of you who joined us live today, or to those who are watching the video. I appreciate you tuning in and taking the time. If you check out my website, there is an On the House consult page, and what you'll find there is a form you can fill out that will give you a 30-minute phone consult with me, where I can answer any questions that you have about therapy. We can get to know each other a little bit better, or set some goals for your life. So feel free to check out the website, the blog, the On the House consult, and thank you so much for tuning into this topic today, work-life balance, making time in the bedroom.
Absolutely. I just posted your blog post on, and I posted your On the House consult. Just share for a second, how can everybody reach you, like in social media or in general?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, my website is dawnwigginstherapy.com. You can also shoot me an email, dawn@dawnwigginstherapy.com. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Plus. You'll find all those links on my website, and feel free to sign up for a newsletter. My weekly newsletters are awesome. Like, seriously, they're awesome, and they're packed with all kinds of great resources, tools, and tips. So definitely check out the website, sign up for the newsletter, and stay connected.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dawn. Thank you, everybody, for joining us live or listening to the recording.
We'll see you next week at 3 o'clock.
See you next Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye. You too. Bye.